channel afterwards. So we're looking at leading without ego today, and I'm very pleased to welcome Steve, Andy, and Liam. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for doing this. The slides are up. There we go. Lovely stuff. So as I say, recording the entire session for the YouTube channel. Send out the link afterwards. Do send us questions and suggestions via chat throughout. And just to introduce, Steve Tappin is author with Wayne Linton of the Awareness Code, of which more later. Andy is CEO at Zimfu, and Liam was working with him as well. So we're going to start with some input from Steve on his 7 CEO types. There's going to be 2 brief breakout rooms throughout the session. We've got about an hour together, with some more content either side. Q&A at the end, half finish at 11 a.m. So the breakout rooms will be in pairs. You'll be in the same pairs both times. More of that later, as I say. But for now, I'd like to hand over to Steve, who's got a lot of content to share. So without further ado, Steve, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, nice to meet you all. It's great to see lots of English faces on the screen, because I'm actually in the Surf Coast, Australia at the moment. And what happened is 2 years ago, you know, when COVID happened, I basically was, I decided to come up to Australia to finish my book for 2 weeks. And I've actually been here for 2 years, yeah, and haven't managed to get home. So it's nice to see a lot of English faces. So, so first of all, leading beyond ego. So what I'm excited to share with you is I'm going to split it into 3 parts. There's a piece around working out your ego and working through it, which is part of the awareness code. And then we're going to go into sort of leading beyond ego, and I won't give you any clues. I'm just going to go straight into it because you won't believe me if I share it in advance. So and then the other thing is, this was Richard's idea, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. Is we talked about me sharing about CEO types. So so the background is, about 5 years ago, I was approached by a group of HR directors to talk to them about the CEOs and how they could understand their CEOs better. And in my life's work's been CEOs all the time. Yeah, since I've been 23, my highest calling has been to work with CEOs and transform companies. And I work with some great HR directors along the way, and also I work with some really strange HR directors as well. So I wasn't sure what to do about this, but I actually really love the experience. And I think what I might be able to share with you is just through the eyes of the CEO, just because that's been my life's work, you know, for 30 years. And actually, that meeting 5 years ago, that's where I met Julia, actually, who's a good friend today. So, hi, Julia. So, so basically, these CEO types came about as I've been working for CEOs since I've been 23. And basically what happened is I wrote a book where I met 200 of the world's top CEOs. And by then, in my mid-30s, my sense was that 2/3 of CEOs struggle with the job. Yeah, they really find the job difficult. And a third do pretty well, but actually the third are all doing the job in a different way. So what I want to show you is 6 or 7 different ways that CEOs are operating. And what I'm going to do is, yeah, and what I'd like to do is, what I'm going to do is share with you each of these CEO types. So if we just flick on to the next one. So there's basically these 7 CEO types. And what I found is that most CEOs operate 1, 2, or 3 types of these CEO types. So what I'm sharing with you, what I suggest you do is think about your CEO. Yeah, think about your CEO. And as I go through, try and identify which ones your CEO is. And what I'll try and reveal is the motivations of these people, the strengths of these people, and some of the challenges that they face. So, and I also thought we'd make it a bit of fun, right? So I put some UK examples in of CEOs in the last decade. And I'm really intrigued to sense how many of them you know. So maybe we'll have a bit of fun with that. And can I ask anyone who's on video, if you can, just to turn the video on, just so we can connect, you know, face to face as well, would be great. Thanks very much. So the first one is commercial executor. Does everybody know this gentleman? Can you give me a thumbs up if you know the person? Yeah, we've got a few. Okay, so we've got 3 or 4, maybe 5. Okay, so the commercial executors, and this is Terry Leahy, the former CEO of Tesco, okay? And the way commercial executors work is basically Terry Leahy wants Tesco to win, yeah? So basically what he has is on his phone, he's got like a balanced scorecard of like 25 measures, which go down to all the metrics that Tesco has down to a store, and he measures it all the time. And basically, so he's got this sort of, he has this business system that supports him winning. And basically, Terry Leahy's priorities are basically Terry Leahy's priorities is Tesco winning, Everton Football Club, and his wife and family. And besides that, he's not really interested in anything else at all in general. So what happens is these companies generate lots of value, yeah, because they're very performance-based, the commercial executors. And he's the leader of the system. And they hold people very accountable to numbers. And from an HR point of view, they love people who are great at what do you call it? What do you call it in the day-to-day management of HR? What do you call it? What's engagement? So they love all the sort of engagement type work. Lots of those sort of surveys, anything around performance, they love. But they struggle often to manage the people because they're focused on the value metric rather than the people. So is your CEO a commercial executor at all? Just have a think about that. And then we'll head on to the next one. Right, who knows this gentleman? Anybody know this person? 2, 3, 4, similar again. Okay, so this is Martin Sorrell. So these are corporate entrepreneurs. So and I'll just talk in very direct terms. So Martin's role is to prove that he's right. Yeah, a lot of these corporate entrepreneurs want to show that they're right, and basically he believes he knows best. He's obsessed by his company. Most of them are obsessed by their company. It's their life. And he has a great brain and he can understand breakthrough opportunities. But the challenge for a lot of the entrepreneurs is as they build great businesses, often there's lots of conflicts because they're quite controlling and people don't feel empowered to work in them. And a lot of the HR directors that work with these sorts of people often have very small budgets because the CEOs don't really see the returns from HR. So these are the sort of corporate entrepreneurs. Have you got a corporate entrepreneur as one of your leaders? Okay, thanks. Right, this is a more tricky one. Does anybody, so these are financial value drivers types of CEOs. Does anyone recognize this person? Does anybody know him? Okay, so this is Mick Davis. He created Xstrata. So in 2006, Xstrata was like 500 million. And then within a decade, he grew it to the sort of similar size of Rio Tinto and others. And basically he did it by his focus is shareholder value. So basically buying companies relentlessly over and over and over again and focusing on the EPS. And when I met him, I asked him about people. He said, people are irrelevant. It's all about shareholder value. That's what counts. But then when he left the company 10 years later, I met him and he cried when he left, when he stepped down, and he told all the people to leave Xstrata and go to a new company. So by then the people had touched him and he changed. So CEOs do change through time. So basically these sorts of CEOs really find the human dimension really confusing. They cannot work out how people think and act and their behaviors at all. So often that they need a sort of HR director who can just sort of take care of it for them because it's just a real challenge for them. They're at home in the deal. Okay, and the next one. So who knows this? Who knows this person? Anyone? Come on, you must know him. Come on. Okay, so we've got a few nods. So this is Lord Browne. So Lord Browne was the CEO of BP, and he was probably the most respected leader in the 90s. In the first the turn of the century. And basically he is an incredible ambassador. He connects with people really, really well. And he has tremendous geopolitical visions for BP. And he was the guy who created Beyond Petroleum. Yeah, he did that speech and that sort of redefined the industry. And basically for them, it's all about the number one reputation is what's really important to them. And what people don't realize is that Lord Browne left at BP, he had some personal challenges and he also had some challenges around execution, but he lost his COO. He had a COO to do the day-to-day execution. And when he left, Lord Browne didn't have that support. So for these ambassadors, they're great at connecting relationships, but they're not necessarily good at the day-to-day execution. Thanks, Liam. And then we'll recognize this person. Anyone recognize this person? Yeah, we've got everybody there, I think. Yeah, we've got everybody. That's great. So Richard Branson. So Richard was an entrepreneur type early on, but I don't know if many people. I'm sure many people have seen that he came more and more about the mission, do the impossible, do the right thing for the world. So he moved towards, things like Plan B, the initiative Plan B. He's done a lot in Virgin Active as well, and also Virgin Galactic. So increasingly wants to sort of do groundbreaking things that will change the world. And these sorts of people build great fellowships of people. I know a lot of Richard's people over the years at Virgin, and they loved working at Virgin. It was the time of their life. The challenge is if Richard leaves the company or draws back, which he has been doing, how do you keep the magic in the company? So is your CEO one of these missionaries, and how do you best support them? And as when I come on to awareness, there are a range of awareness, as you'll see. Okay, just a couple more to go. Right. Anyone know this person? No. Okay. So this is Richard Baker, who was the CEO of Boots. So Richard's philosophy to management is basically you get the right people. Just get the right people, create the right culture, and the company will do really, really well. That's basically his philosophy. So, I think he'd be great to work with as having him as your CEO. And then the challenge is that what happens then when the metrics don't work, and how do you balance some of the strategic issues is a challenge for him. Okay, so that's the people's champion. And then I'm just going to follow, the last one is a professional manager, and we haven't given a picture to it. So about 10 years ago, I saw there were lots of professional managers running FTSE 100s. And they know Western management. Yeah, they know about 3-year plans, and they know about budgets, and they know about monthly accounting. But what they don't know is what to do when things either go really high in terms of growth or really low in terms of recession. And they panic, and they really worry about, they don't want to be seen as a failure. And I've seen so many of these people struggle with recessions and COVID as they can't adapt quick enough. So, but they can go quite well in a steady state business, run it efficiently. So basically, these are the 7 types. And so what I'd like you to do is, well, we're going to have a breakout room in a second, and I'll just add a few more points that might just help with the conversation. So the first one is, increasingly we are seeing blended CEOs. So 10 years ago, these were the successful people, but more and more the CEOs are getting blended. So I'm seeing like people are a bit more missionary. There might be execution, but they're also a bit more entrepreneurial. They're also good with people. So we're getting more blended CEOs, and ideally, you might be working for a blended CEO, and then you've just got to work out how to best adapt with them. The second question is, this is just absolutely, it was a list of white men. Yeah. So it was just, that's the issue. We had 5% of female leaders. So clearly we want to get equality in terms of male-female leadership. I just also let you know is, so I have coached many female CEOs. So I coached Carolyn McCall when she was the CEO of EasyJet, when she moved from Guardian Media Group. The people said that, she couldn't run an airline. So I worked with her for 4 years when, EasyJet became Britain's most admired company, and she was Britain's most admired CEO. And then lastly, just before I went to Australia, I worked with Sharon White, who just went into the sort of the situation at John Lewis. And what's interesting is both of them have got depth, and both of them are quite broad. So Carolyn's, got a number of those factors that I've talked about, but also Sharon's got a lot of depth. She really cares about community. She cares about equality. And she's so I think we're going to have a new generation of female leaders that we really want to encourage. And again, I'll come back to this when we talk about awareness. And then the third question is, which CEO types can or cannot work with HR directors? So one of my questions for you is, you might realize today that your CEO is the wrong person for you to be working with. Or you might decide that you want to work with a different type of CEO. So maybe we might come back to this in the Q&A at the end. But suggestion is, Richard, could we just have our first breakout group and just talk a little bit around in the breakout, which CEO type is your CEO? And just share it with one of your peers, just so you get a sense of it. So we'll just give you 5 minutes and just have a two-way first exchange. See you soon.
And Steve and Andy, back to you.
Okay, great. Can we just move on to the next slide, Liam, please. Okay, so just to give you some background on the awareness code. So, so basically, I've written a book with Wayne Linton, who's an Australian chap. And basically, I met Wayne about 5 years ago, and he was just really good at the human awareness level. And as I met him, he just went to a completely new level beyond what I'd ever experienced with anybody. And so basically what he's done is he's dedicated his life to human awareness. And in that time, he's now in his mid-60s. He's done 36,000 one-to-ones with people. And he's got an amazing ability to go to deep awareness. And then my life, as you know, was CEOs and transformations globally. So what we did is we sort of got in fellowship together, and we wanted to try and create an awareness code, because people, you know, if you ask people how they're going, a leader, you say, yeah, I'm going well, or I'm not going so well. And they might be able to name one or two emotions, but they can't necessarily sort of name the full picture. So we've written this book, and a number of CEOs are calling it like the periodic table. So, you know, you have the periodic table of the elements. This is the periodic table for leaders. And so what I'm going to share with you is there's 100 tiles in this awareness code. And again, so what I'm going to do is I'll share it with you. I'll bring it to life. And then the question again is going to be, when I'm talking, what are your higher tiles? So there's higher tiles of awareness, which is what most leaders would like. And there's also lower levels to avoid. So here it is. So this is the awareness code. And the lowest level of awareness is at level 0, which is like self-loathing, you know, very low energy. And the highest levels of human awareness is incredible, and potentially for a small number of people beyond incredible. So, and what you see the red line there. The red line is below the red line is basically what we're calling lower awareness. So this is the awareness that most people, you know, would like to avoid, not have. And above the red line in tiles 60 to 99 is higher awareness. And you know, we talked about ego. So below the red line is ego. These are the different dimensions of ego. And I'd just like to bring each, and you'll notice the left-hand side is the levels. So you can see there's 10 levels. And also you'll see, do you see and below the red line, if you sort of look at it, you can end up hesitant at 29, which is quite light, but the heaviest side, you can be numb as a person. So it goes from lighter to heavier on the left-hand side. So I'll just talk about, I'll start off at wanting. So the level of wanting is most human beings come in through wanting. So in their upbringing, as an ego, they want that toy, they want that doll, I don't want that food. They start to create an identity from their upbringing. And that identity starts to then make them narrow down on what they want and don't want from life. And many corporate leaders haven't broken through those wants, those childhood wants, teenage wants. They still carry them into their career. So they get very attached to certain things, and that can lead to very competitive behavior, can be scheming. A lot of these types of leaders are very, very overambitious because they're driven by this want. And also a lot of them have, in contrast to the overambition, have addictive behaviors. And a lot of these people also have perfectionism. There's like 89% of leaders have perfectionist issues, of a group of 2,700 global leaders we analysed a month ago. So wanting, so basically wanting is very, very significant. And then what's happening is people who want things try and build a system for success. And then they start to control things. So a lot of controlling leaders get really, really frustrated if things don't happen quick enough. You know, why I'm just so frustrated it's not quick enough. Or they get annoyed with people in their teams. Or they actually get skeptical with other people if it's not their idea. Yeah, they're very much about their own ideas. They're not open to new ideas and to new people. I'm just checking if we've got any of those in the audience today. No, I think we're reasonably good. And then at the heavier side, we've got people who are confronting and bullying, you know, in the way that they work. And you know, many of us have encountered those sorts of people. So that's a level of controlling. And then if you get people who want things and they control things, they then naturally often go into egotistical. So, and many CEOs still, unfortunately, have, you know, they can be arrogant at times. They have a sense of know-it-all, that they know best, that they can be self-centered, they can be dismissive of their people, and can get defensive under challenge. And they have a lot of ego confidence. So it's not a deep sense of inner belief. The ego confidence actually comes from that ego requesting side, at 39. And then also a lot of these people talk about change, but they don't really buy into change. They're often resistant to change themselves. So in this level of lower awareness, 30 to 59, a lot of people here are very, very judgmental, and it's very, very I-centered. And so then if we then go down to the lower levels of awareness, if we go to stressed, is basically, if you look globally, in management teams across the world, 70% of people generally are stressed. So isn't that amazing, right, as a situation? And it's been magnified by COVID. So a lot of people, even more people are feeling anxious and worried. A lot of people going to over-pleasing, and a lot of people feeling a bit trapped and in dread of the situations that they're in. And I'll just quickly go into the other two areas. Despondent people are really struggling with their motivation. So they're discontented, they're not happy, or they disconnect. And you might have people that like this, or they carry wounds, or they're lethargic. So there's a sort of despondency. And the lowest level of human awareness is the sort of lifelessness, where people really do struggle with not feeling enough at times, or feeling inadequate, and maybe feeling unlovable, and the lower levels of self-hatred. So what I'm going to do, Liam, is I'll finish the whole sequence, Liam, and I'll come back to summarize, if that's okay. So don't. All right, just leave it there, Liam, if you don't mind. So I'm just going to just leave it there, if you don't mind. He's managed to bring it back. Amazing. he's good as Liam, he's unbelievable. Anyway, so hopefully I'm giving you a sense of lower awareness. And what I've also want to share with you is a lot of people have high awareness, but our sense is that it's a very, very high proportion of people have got low awareness as well, but they're not aware of it. So if I just go quickly up into the higher levels, is increasingly now we want to, there's a path to become an incredible leader. The first one is to realize the truth about yourself. So realizing the truth might be that I am anxious at times. I'm actually very frustrated at times. I'm very skeptical at times. But then be ready to realize there's a new way forward for it in terms of getting ready, and you're ready to change. You're going to do some preparation to get rid of this frustration. You're going to release frustration, and you're going to reorientate yourself. So increasingly now we're looking for leaders who can step in. They're positive all the time. They're positive. They've got a sense of conviction around what they're delivering for the business, and they're fully in. They're completely fully in. Increasingly, we're looking for all leaders to be like that at all times. And then many current leaders and CEOs get up to about 69 as their highest level of awareness. But increasingly now we're looking to develop leaders, CEOs and the next generation who can be open at a new level. So open means that they're receptive, that they're very present, they're able to hold the presence. Even in a chaotic business place, they're very present. They can witness things, they're patient and open-minded. So I can see that you're witnessing this, yeah? That Richard, you're part of this group, and Richard's referred us, and you're just listening in, yeah? And we're starting to build a bit of trust together. And from that place, people can connect and then start to collaborate. And then things will emerge, and then potentially, some wows will happen, and you'll be in flow. And that's this idea that open people know how to connect with people and flow. And then at the level of the 80s is increasingly what we're finding is that transformation is not the way that it's defined up to now. So for us, transformation is you have a highest calling in your life. There's a bigger picture in your life, and you're really aware of your highest calling. And that's the question for each of you. Do you know what your highest calling is in your life? For you, your family, your friends, your career, the things that you really care about. Do you know what your highest calling is? And then from that place, then we develop your power to deliver your highest calling. And then you realize value, not just for yourself, but for all the people who are in your highest calling. And then the real highest callings that are emerging now are so significant that you have to deliver it in fellowship. So you've got to learn to do everything naturally in fellowship, and then embrace things that would really be impactful. And increasingly now leaders like this are spontaneous. They just go in the moment and they do off the charts things, and they can do things globally and hold it together. And they've got integrity. So integrity is not just being honest in every moment. It's looking for the highest win in all times with everybody that you're with. So we're really sort of looking at integrity in that way. And then it's amazing, right? You sort of look at these people and you go, wow, you know, they've got an amazing highest calling, they work in fellowship, they do things that are off the charts, they pull it all together, they've got integrity. That's inspiring. That's Rachel, you know, she's amazing. And then Wayne has basically gone to define incredible. And it was just like beyond my comprehension of incredible. So, you know, we have the images on Fortune and other places, but our sense is that incredible people, and you know, just think of yourself here, they absolutely love their life. They absolutely love life. And then that they're really sincere, they're kind, they're sincere, they're caring towards other people, and they've got really good hearts. So incredible people have got really, really good hearts, and they're devoted to being their best. You know, so I've changed my life from the awareness code over the last 5 years. You know, to give you an example, I meditate 2.5 to 3 hours a day before 8 a.m. so I can be at my most aware. You know, that's just like one part of my practice. And then basically credible people are thriving. They're, you know, it's their, not just themselves, but their career, their family, their friends, that they're thriving. And they're commercial, but they're also really caring. They care for people, and they've got good empathy. They can step into other people's shoes. And also, because of their highest calling, they want to give back. There's always a giving back nature to these people at 96. And they do things that are absolutely heart bursting, you know, like they burst your heart, and they do extraordinary things. So, and the people who can live the life above 60 then make some moments where they can reveal grace. And then, so Salim, if I can just briefly, can we just reduce the reds for a second? Are we in for time? Yeah. So I'm conscious this is a lot of information, but hopefully it's coming together. Okay, so the other thing then is as I say, Wayne's and I view is that 99% of people have low awareness. That's our view. And so if you draw a line in low awareness, you know, in here, say, just draw a big line, Liam, is that many of us have, parts of us have low awareness. So just to give you some examples from the last few years, is frustrations the largest one that we find in the UK. So many people are frustrated. They're carrying frustration. They don't know how to release it. There's equally a lot of people who are carrying anxiety and worry. You know, you might be one of them. You know, you've got some higher, but also they're carrying anxiety and worry at the same time. There's a significant amount of know-it-alls and self-centered people in companies at that level, and a lot of competition and perfectionism. So these are just to give you examples of these tiles. And what we've done with the book is what you have to do to really work on your awareness is to be really, really honest, realize the truth, which is, what is your lowest level of awareness, right? What honestly is your lowest level of awareness? So if it was this person, their lowest level of awareness is 25 worried. And then what we do is you work on that specific tile. So in the book, we've got a profound description of what worried is at a deep level, but really you have to go back just to where worry has come into your life, and then you work out how to reduce worry and move through it. So the way that we do that is Wayne, you have the psychologists who help people through anxiety and things. You know, Wayne's got the, you know, maybe it takes 1 or 2 years, but Wayne's got the ability to do it in an hour. He can shift people, like 97% of people, unless they're skeptical. He can basically help people through that. So what we've got is there's a book that people can use, and also we've got an app, and we have such fun with this app. So literally, you have a bad day at work. So imagine you're frustrated. Yeah, you've had about 5 meetings, and you cannot believe it, and you're absolutely fuming. You go outside, and basically you get your app, and you go, there's 10 choices. So number 2, I'm actually number 2 on frustration, and then it identifies how to move out of that type of frustration by moving you to a higher tile. It's such great fun. and then there's something also developing as well around allowing. Well, there's another thing that's maybe for another time. So the idea of it, if you see, is to develop through your lower tiles. And what we're saying is we want to build, ideally a workforce where everybody's above 60. Yeah. So then ideally we want to then move up and come up to the higher tiles. And a lot of the work that we do is for many years we tried to take every company to extraordinary in one go, but it just doesn't work, because you've got to have all the positivity and the conviction and the fully in. So the key thing is to start on the positive conviction fully in your business performances, and then move through into connection is very, very important. And then really making sure everybody's highest calling is linked to the company's vision. So basically, what we do with our work is we try and take many companies. If the CEO is right, we can take them to the transformation line, and rarely we'll actually try and take somebody to 98 extraordinary. And we haven't done any PR behind this at all. We've just done it all. This is actually the first forum I've actually spoken to in 3 years. We've just done it all behind the scenes. So none of this information's been disclosed to anybody. And then the final piece is we're creating a group called the Beyond Incredible group. So Wayne and I are trying to identify 100 people who we think are leaders in their industry, the people who are either incredible or have got incredible potential. So I'll just give you a few examples. So if Steve Foots is the CEO of Croda, do you know him? Anyone know him? So Croda's been the most successful company in Britain over the last 25 years. He created the vaccine for the COVID virus. I've worked with him for 5 years, and his company Croda is now the #1 in the world on sustainability, as referenced by Browne. So to give you a flavour of, that's the sort of level of person that we're looking for in that group. We've got people like the CEO of Prezi in there, and just trying to think of the different people. We've got some incredible female leaders in there. We've got Chloe Target Adams, who I think has very high potential to be a future leader one of the future leaders of Formula One. And also Julia's in that group as well. So Julia is also somebody who's like an amazing person with extraordinary potential as well. So we've got some amazing female leaders. We've also got future political leaders. We've really not focused on the current political leaders in the countries, because we think their awareness, well, I think it's up to you to decide on their awareness rather than me. But just think about your UK leader and try and plot him on the awareness code to give you a sense. So what we're doing is we're focused on working the next generation of presidents. So we've got somebody potentially who we think could be that for America and for Zambia. Potentially we've got somebody for South Africa. So we're building a group of 100 beyond incredible people, and that's going on behind the scenes. So hopefully, does that give you a bit of a flavour? And what we do is we have a quick breakout and just try and think about what are your 1 or 2 tiles. Try and be really honest about your 1 or 2 tiles, and what are the 1 or 2 higher tiles that you'd like to develop, and have a dialogue with a friend here, and then we'll have a final piece of Q&A together. So
Steve,
enjoy.
Steve,
with me. Okay, well, be really interested to hear what you thought about it, and your sort of thoughts on the individual detail that it offers, I think, which is the thing that struck me most of all. It gets down to the detail. Love to open it up for questions, thoughts, reflections. And Steve, anything you'd like to sort of say at this point? Oh, Lizzie, you're going to start us off. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I guess I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question, but I guess my question is, does it go cross cultures as well? Does it, because my CEO is American, and so I see a lot of, definitely when you were going through this kind of types of CEO, there were a couple there that really sort of struck out for me, which makes it difficult for him to connect from a human perspective. And so I wondered if it goes across. Yeah. Or if differences.
Steve, do you want to take that?
Yes, or do you want to, Andy? I'm happy if you want to.
I'll have a first stab at it, and then let you kind of elaborate. But I think, firstly, great question, and I think the honest truth is absolutely it sits across all walks of life and cultures. Yeah. Obviously, there are implications if you're in Asia or in America. In fact, Liam and I, as we mentioned, just came back from the US, where we had a global team, and it sat beautifully across people from Singapore to Peru who were in that room. And I think it truly sits across culture, I think would be my answer. Steve-O?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So in background, we've been testing it behind the scenes. We've tested it in America, the UK, China, Africa, India, to check it's universal. And then I think your question's really right. Each culture's got its own orientation. You know, like, as you say, some of those transactional American CEOs might find it hard at the opening level. You know, the Chinese have obviously big issues around control. So there's definitely a cultural dimension. And also, by the way, you can map it at a team-based level or an individual-based level as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Taking my cue there from Lizzie, because that's a really nice question. Did you find, Steve and Andy, that the aspirations differ, though, in sense of what they most prize in terms of different cultures, would you say?
The aspirations differ, you mean, in terms of the countries, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, I put that badly. I mean, when you look at the sort of the top level, perhaps, you know, so I look at the top level, I think that all makes sense to me in terms of where you're headed and where you would most want to get to. But does that play out differently in different cultures? I suppose I was just really just adding to what
I could take a first stab at that, and I think it depends on whether you're looking into the business environment or into a life environment. For example, we know, you know, the Hispanic communities are so family driven. It's about the compassion. It's about the devotion for them. It's all about their family. And so I think, you know, when you split it out across business, you could argue, I'll let Steve-O perhaps go more at the business side, but in life terms, I think it absolutely is looked at differently, very much so. And if you go to China, you get a very different perspective on you know, what is the definition of success in China. It alters very differently culturally around the world. So I think at a life level, hugely different. Business, I'll let Steve-O address.
Yeah, Liam, can we just put the awareness code back in just so we've got it for reference as well? Yeah. So I think I'd still go to it at a universal level. I feel that really the battle is many leaders across the world are struggling to get above 69. You know, and I think that's there's a lot of new skills that need to be developed. So. And for example, in the below 60, a lot of people are driven by their thinking mind. I want this, I want that. And increasingly, we're looking to develop people's witness mind at 71, so people can witness things. And there's also a wisdom mind, which comes in at the sort of the 90s level. So I feel that there's I think it's, you know, I think there's a universal challenge which sits most. How do we get above 69? And the challenge is that for the people in 69, many of them are operating 120% of the time. And then they've got other below 60 at the same time, which means their lives are very challenging.
Thanks, Steve. It's interesting. That's I mean, just being slightly literal on my part, but if that's 30 out of 100, that's of the emotional landscape, it's almost a third that's not being explored, which is interesting. Given that there's a lot of male CEOs, I'll leave you to finish that sentence. Matt, let's bring in Matt Nibbs.
Thanks, Richard. Steve, you mentioned at the start when you were talking about some of the CEOs, how as they progressed in their careers and their journeys, some of their thinking changed. Did you also see some correlation surrounding age and how the age of the CEO you know, changes levels of awareness or whatever?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I think broadly awareness does improve through time, I feel. But for example, like the commercial executors, their model is just so intense. So they operate in that intense model, say, and then a number of them, when they get into their 50s, they just can't keep the pace up. So they actually struggle with maintaining things. And that's similar for the entrepreneurs. Yeah, they get to the stage where they just can't keep that pace up. So, but I feel also there's a lot of people do move towards more mission, more people-based through time, and also to give back more. I think people think about giving back a lot more as well.
On that point, Steve, extraordinary story about the ex-strata CEO that you mentioned. Quite a thing. Let's go to Amy and then to Carly, if I may. So Amy first.
Hello, thank you for this. This is absolutely wonderful. I love it. When I first look at this and I think, you know, it would be great if I had the book and I could put this in front of my CEO, I question about the level of self-awareness. So he may believe that he's devoted and heartfelt, but the people around him in the business will see him demonstrating terror or scheming. And I wonder how you sort of get through that, how you can, what you can do to help someone be more self-aware.
Yeah, great question. Do you want to do that, Andy? Do you want me to cover that? So basically what we do is normally what we'll introduce the awareness code, you know, like we did with you, and then we'll talk about the lower and higher tiles, and then we'll get them to buddy with a couple of people, and then we ask them to basically evaluate each other on what do you see as everyone else in your management team, their top 3 and top 3 lower tiles. So basically you then get, imagine you get a sheet that's got 52 know-it-alls with like 5 people's names in it, or you get frustration coming out 8 times. It's like a killer piece of feedback, and then it starts the conversation off, and then you can move into it from there.
I think Steve-O's nailed that, and I think from my point of view, Amy, there's I just said it offline before you all came out of the breakout sessions, there's an honesty about the awareness code that when you share it with other team members, whether you're the leader or listening to your team, there's an honesty about this process that allows that discussion to unfold. And it's often, let's be candid, it's not always that comfortable because there is lower tile behavior, but the honesty builds the fellowship. So we see that time and time again through the honest, candid conversations. We call them courageous conversations with each other as a team. That enables the ability for this team to start stepping in and realizing the truth. And I think that's a process that isn't always easy, but it's where you have to start.
Yeah.
That help.
Yeah. The other thing that we also do is at the same time you go into all the deepest business issues at a deep level, realize the truth on them at the same time.
Right.
So you go deeply into that, then how do you move forward in the next 30, 60, 90 days? And then also how do you shift the awareness? And that creates a new momentum for everybody.
Thanks, Beth. That help, Amy?
There's a few more questions. Yeah.
And
Thanks,
Carly?
Amy.
Thanks. Hi, Carly.
Hiya, thank you for sharing this. Yeah, it's so interesting, and I definitely want to read up more about it. It's got me really hooked into it. But one of the questions that I have is around, I guess, leaders or CEOs when they've moved around lots of different companies, or they've actually grown up and progressed in one company, and whether you find that makes a difference at all in terms of their level of awareness.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. No, sorry, what was your name again?
Carly.
Carly, so you know, so when Carly comes in, she's coming in with 65 positive. Yeah, do you feel it when she comes in on the screen? So, it's fascinating. So I think one of the challenges, if you're a CEO that's been in the business for a long time, is you've got that expertise, and a lot of them struggle with know-it-all at 52. They also get attached to their view of the answer of the business. They often get frustrated with the management team. So you get a cluster of like 52, 36, 48 as an issue, and it's often harder for them to change. Not that it's impossible, but it's just harder.
And can I ask, why is it harder?
Well, you've been in that company for 20 years, you've worked your way up to the top based on your expertise and knowing how things work. And then all of a sudden then, versus I'm moved from company to company, I'm now in here, I'm probably more adaptable, you know, in that situation.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
I'm just thinking, let's go to, before I go to Martin for one last question, just to say, we'll send out today's slides and the recording. There's also, I think there's an extract coming, isn't there, Steve? And also Steve's offered to send the book out for anyone who would like. So I'll put that on the email, and you can just send the address to me. Anything I've missed there, Steve, before we go to Martin?
Yeah, no, very happy to send. There's a summary of the book or a personal copy if people are genuinely passionate about it. Happy to share.
Thank you. And Martin?
Thanks. Apologies if you might have already covered the beginning. I didn't join quite at the beginning, but Just a question really about self-awareness as an idea. A lot of books and studies and tools that talk about self-awareness seem to be predicated on the fact that an individual has a self that is constant and never changes. Is that something that you would subscribe to, or do you think that the self does change as people progress through life?
Yeah, so I think yourself's continually evolving. So the idea of it is our belief is, you know, we're mapping out awareness so people can fully understand their awareness for the first time, and then we're going to give them the choice to move through their lower awareness. So that's the idea. What we're looking to do is to give people a choice that they might want to really make a decision to live their life above 60. So if you want to live your life above 60, you've got to work through all of these tiles, and it's not, and it's, you know, it needs a level of challenge to it, you know. So maybe Andy could give an example, but you know, your life, you have a lot of challenges to work through, and then once you get above 60, you know, you're operating from a very weak point of view. You tend to be in service more. You know, your highest calling tends to be more about service. You know, some people would say you're operating more from your soul, you know, as a person rather than ego.
I think exactly right, Steve, and I think I'd elaborate and bring this to life for you in the context of thinking about your own tiles, Martin. As a teenager, if you looked back to your teenage years and you said, which tiles were you operating in during your teenage years, I suspect they might look a little bit different to where you're operating now. And I think that emphasizes the point that we're constantly evolving as people. And I think your journey is unfolding. You can either go down the tiles or up them. But, you know, once you're self-aware, you generally start to move up the tiles.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. We're out of time, I think. Thanks for letting us know about the book. I'm making rapid notes. Appreciate the interest. But big thanks to Steve, to Andy, and to Liam in the background, foreground. Much appreciated. We'll see you again at the next one. Yeah. Excellent.
Lovely to meet you all. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks for having us, Richard.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.